Man, that is way too ominous of a countdown. Let's look for something more chill. Yeah, I'd say that's a lot better. Way more chill. Hey, it's Monday. It is 8:32 a.m. EST. Welcome to Algo Factory's Beginner Live Lab. The gorilla may be along. He's still kind of recovering. He was a bit under the weather last week there, enough so that he couldn't make it, and he generally will make it even if he's not feeling so great. But I talked to him over the weekend over text. Seemed like he was good, so we may or may not see him today. But he is back in action this week, so tune in, especially on Rogue. He should be around. In the meantime, though, I'm going to throw up a QR code. So for those of you who are new to the show or just want to see the QR code and come over to our website, here it is. It's www.algofactory.tech. There is the actual URL written on the screen, or zap that QR code, take you to our website, find out who we are, what we do. Long story short, we help people become traders, whether they are new traders or not. Whether you could be an expert trader. We also help people develop trading methods. Okay. Now, these methods are called algorithms. It does not mean that you have to know how to computer code or anything like that. It's just a simple, hey, this is how to trade. Now, of course, we don't tell you how. We give you the nuts and bolts for you to develop your own method, so on and so forth. And towards the end of this, we'll go ahead and get a little bit more into that. But for now, I want to jump into the content. I see a few people already in. Look, do the YouTube thing, like, subscribe, follow, hit the notification bell. And if you are seeing this offline after the fact, please put in some comments inside of the comment section on YouTube. It helps out our algos. We got a few people. I see Valentine over there is typing. We actually got a fair amount of people in today. That's in the private group, and of course nobody yet in the YouTube, because this is a relatively new YouTube. We haven't even marketed out yet. So we get a few people in, we get a handful of people watch it, and that's fine. A couple people in now. Say hello if you can. So the first thing I want to do, it's a decent week to trade, especially after tomorrow. Tomorrow's the CPI. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the calendar right now. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Give me 1 second. And look, when you trade, news events matter. For me, mostly it means that's when I'm not trading, right? I stay away from trading against those or trading with those news events, because it's really just hard to know which way a price is going to go. It's hard to know how things are going to be announced as they are. Trading has a certain level of probability that goes along with it. And let me see here. I'm getting a message here from Lisa saying that's lagging for her. I'm going to ask everybody else, is this lagging for you, ? And see if anybody tells me. At any rate, trading already has a certain level of probability, right? Now, when you're going with news events, yes, it adds volatility to the market. It adds action, right? But the problem is you don't know which direction that action is in. So you're adding more probability to the scenario. And probability actually decays the more you add, right? So we got MavBet. Good morning, MavBet. And I'm hearing that it's not lagging for anybody else, Lisa, so it sounds to me like that's an issue for you. So when you have like a 65% chance of winning, which is great. You can be very profitable on 65% if you have your trade set up right. And if you have a 65%, right, and let's just say you have an 80% probability of knowing which way the news is going to go with your methodology. Well, this isn't exactly a pure calculation, but more or less, you actually are going to have now a probability of 80% of your 65%, right? So that's going to knock you down to 12, 65 minus 12 and a half. So that's going to knock you down closer to like 52.5%. So you were at 65%, which, if you trade over time, that's going to be very profitable. But now you're closer to like 50%, and that's not so good now. And that's not a pure number. It's actually a little bit more nuanced to that. But just the same, it's, trading news, unless you have a method, unless you can go to each news event on the calendar and then back test it in a way that is like realistic. There are people who do, they actually have a way of doing that. They bracket, they basically have a long or a short trigger on top of our bottom, so if it goes up, it knocks them into a trade. If it goes down, it knocks them into a trade. But I'm not doing that. That's, I've even tried things like that. It's not like very realistic for me. But if you have a high level system that you're paying a lot of money for, then of course, that's another story altogether, right? But if you're just a normal trader out there, I know people that say they're profitable on news. I'm profitable on news because I wait until the market has digested the news, right? So I use the volatility of the news, but I kind of wait until that initial bouncing around is done, and then I'm happy to go and trade that volatility. So I'm not saying I don't trade it at all. I'm just saying I'm not in a trade before the announcement or right after the announcement. It's not how I roll. Okay, so what do we have? Well, today, nothing pretty much. Tomorrow, and for the Canadian dollar, it's a bank holiday, so there's going to be very little volatility there. At the London Open, the unemployment data come out, so that will be, those data will cause the market to move. Don't know which way it's going to be. Same with the CPI. Now, I'm just going to guess. I'm just going to guess. I'm going to guess that CPI is going to come out probably lower than expected. From what we're reading, a lot of the large banks are underwater. Like, they're just massively not, they're hurting. Bank of America in particular seems to be hurting. And so in a scenario like this, we may find that there's a problem, and so they need to fix it. And the only way to fix that is to kind of push the market in a way that they know they can predict. So I think the Santa rally is on, is pretty much what I'm saying. And of course, we had the Fed pause. We've had basically dovish talk, right? Powell came out and he more or less was dovish, certainly not hawkish. I mean, he may have had a hawkish comment or two, but for the most part, he's dovish, meaning that, okay, we may, we're not going to hike rates. It seems like the rate hiking has done its job, comments that kind of equate to that. Okay. So when you have those comments, that's making people think that money may not get more expensive in the short term. Money might even get cheaper in the midterm. And so, of course, people are getting excited. Oh, the market's going to go up again. Money gets less hesitant to go into the market. And this is the kind of thing that we expect. All right, so let me throw up the link on here. Algo Factory. Just going to throw a link out to the rogue people if anybody wants to come join us. So we're going to go ahead and talk about Bitcoin next, as soon as we're done with the calendar. So I'm going to do a chart on that. But for the meantime, later in the evening, we have some Aussie dollar data wage price index, which is going to be like CPI. But I still haven't really covered this. So CPI tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. EST, that's a big number. That's like maybe the biggest or second biggest bit of data in the month. Okay, there's the FOMC and there's CPI. And I think FOMC is done. I believe that was like the 1st or 2nd of November, real early on. But the CPI is going to be Consumer Price Index, core CPI. It's the main inflation metric that everybody's looking at. Of course, inflation is the big story. If inflation is low, then of course that means that the cuts have worked, and maybe the interest rate hikes have worked. Perhaps we're going to see cuts. If the inflation is high, then it's like, okay, money's going to continue to be expensive. They might even hike rates. So, the more expensive money is, the more equities go down. The cheaper money is, the more equities go up. So low inflation means money gonna probably get cheaper, means markets go up, and the opposite to go down. So now these metrics, unless they are very poignant, unless they print a number that is way far away from this predicted forecast number that I just highlighted on the right? So core CPI at like 0.3% month over month. So let's just say it's like 0.2. And let's say CPI year over year was below 3, right? So if those numbers are super low, then we can expect, okay, like the markets are probably going to shoot up a decent amount and do it for more than just 10 minutes. But if the market's just barely lower than these expected numbers that you see here, then market might move around a little bit. A lot of the money that was kind of on the sidelines of waiting for this announcement is going to come back in. So if the number is barely different, there will be volatility, but the market will probably continue in the same direction it was going. If the number diverges up or down, like drastically from these predicted amounts, then we can expect the volatility to kind of continue for a little while, maybe several hours, maybe a few days, whatever it might be. It just depends on how drastic the diversion is from the forecast. Aussie dollar, same kind of thing. I think wage price index is like I want to say that's like a CPI for just wages, wage inflation, if you will, quarter over quarter. I could probably look at it. Not that it's quite that important in the whole picture, but if you're trading Aussie dollars, the change in price businesses is government's pay for labor, excluding bonuses. So that's exactly what it is, wage inflation. Quarter over quarter. And it tells you here, like, look, this is a cool thing. Now, Forex Factory, I've heard there are better solutions. I like Forex Factory. Maybe it's just because I'm stuck in the past. But what it'll tell you here is the effect. Greater than forecast is good for currency, right? So if the wage price index is going up, that's an indication that the economy is doing well, which means that the currency is probably going to see rate hikes in the future, according to the wisdom. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's just that's the wisdom. And so if the wage hikes are going to happen, or the wage hikes are going to happen, then you can expect the rest of the markets to go down, because of course, if money gets expensive, stocks and stuff become more expensive to buy. So that's how it works. And that's a quarterly result. So quarter over quarter, meaning that it doesn't come out that often, meaning that it might be actually pretty strong. CPI for UK, for GBP actually, anything related to the British pound, that's on the London Open on Wednesday. And then of course, PPI is going to be a pretty big number too. That the PPI is the producer price index, which is going to be like the same thing as the CPI, but related to manufacturing. Okay. So, and I have to look back, but just, so I don't want to say something that's not true, but just the last few times I have looked at it, the PPI has more or less followed the CPI. So if like CPI goes down, it might be the PPI goes down, and you can almost predict that, but I wouldn't say that for sure. What I would do is go ahead and look back over time and say, okay, you know what, 9 times out of 10 they follow each other, right? So I don't want to say that, but that's something one could do. Let's just say you want to learn how to trade the news, or you want to develop something that's predictable. You could relate these events to each other, right? You could go and say, okay, well, if the FOMC does this, then the CPI does this, 9 times out of 10, right? But if it's like 50-50, then it's like, okay, it's not very predictable. And then the CPI and PPI, they might have a very high correlation. And I would guess that those did. So that might be one way to go. But understand, even with the high correlation, what can happen is the market can get pushed in the opposite direction to what you expect and knock you out of your trades. That can happen. So you got to be careful. So you got PPI, core PPI, a little bit different to each other. It tells you like core PPI is going to be, I think, excluding fuel and gas, excluding food and energy, not fuel and gas, but food and gas. So, PPI itself, I don't believe excludes those. You also get a lot of data coming out. So I think the PPI will overshadow a lot of this data, but you have the Empire State Manufacturing Index, which is going to be basically a look at manufacturing, whether or not it's healthy. And then, of course, healthy is going to be like, dollar go up, unhealthy, dollar go down. Dollar go down, markets go up. Then you have retail sales month over month, which is just a general look at that. And if retail sales are going down, that means dollar go down. That means markets go up in the current environment. If you're trading oil, this crude oil inventories might have some effect. I don't trade oil that closely, not these days. So I don't know. Haven't looked at that. Aussie dollar has unemployment data coming out at 7:30 EST on, what is that, Thursday? Let's see, on Wednesday night, EST. That's going to be, I think, morning for Aussies. And then Thursday, the 16th, unemployment claims, which is every week. It's a week-to-week metric, so it may or may not add volatility. Friday, retail sales for GBP. Okay, so that's the week ahead. That's the data coming out, and so of course, we want to make sure that we understand what's going on, at least from to know which way the wind is blowing. Again, for me, news is like, that means I'm not going to trade it. That's usually what news means for me. So now, before I start looking at charts, I'm going to look at Bitcoin next, but I figured I would open it up to questions. We got Jay Cheerio out of chaps. Talk like some 1940s. Cheerio, chaps, like some TV British person, terrible accent. But yeah, if you have questions and you're watching, even if you're in YouTube, look, I'm going to say something. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're not an Algo Factory member, you do have the opportunity to ask questions. Like, you could just simply ask a question in the comments. Now, it might take me a few days to get to it, but those comments that you can leave, like, not live, not in the comment chat section, but the actual comment section, I can answer those questions too. Now our private members do get priority as to what questions get answered, but we actually have an hour of private, not on YouTube, after this half hour is up. So a lot of times their questions are reserved for that time. But if anybody has questions on a chart, just ask, whether you're in private or not. Okay. And if you're, like I said, if you're watching this after the fact, then go ahead and ask questions, and generally I'll be able to get to it, or just leave comments, say, hey, you're great, hey, you suck, whatever, I don't care. All right, so Bitcoin. So I told my my guys and gals over the weekend that it does look like Bitcoin has at least made a local top. And the thing about Bitcoin is that its high time frame metrics they generally just kind of stay bullish. And right now they're still bullish. So if Bitcoin were to locally flip bullish again, then chances are price would continue upward. And this can happen. The way I see it right now, and again, we had a little information. Actually, I don't want to say too much about what may happen. I don't want to give that away for free. Yeah, see, Jay says lagging, but Valentine says not lagging. It might be that YouTube is lagging, and that might be the issue, I'm guessing, because the people who are watching on Telegram don't seem to be having a problem. If you're watching on Telegram, speak up. Let me know if it's lagging. I want to know. Inquiring minds, as in my own, want to know. Okay. And look, here's the deal. If it's lagging, in fact, you could always go back after the fact and watch it. I hate to say that. Cool Cat says, good to go here. Cool Cat, are you watching this only on Telegram, or are you also watching on YouTube? That would be the question. And then I can actually blame it on YouTube. Good morning, sir. All right, so I could tell you, like, from, locally, and even on a decent, like on the daily, we're starting to see a flip towards bearishness, but that could be on the telly. When you say you're on the telly, Cool Cat, does that mean YouTube? Anyway, on the daily, like I said, we're seeing a flip to bearish, and we're seeing a couple of things that mean that it might mean that this move up is done. It's hard to say. Ray, if you're lagging, okay, everybody, thank you for the reports. If you're lagging, I want to know what you're watching on. If you're watching on YouTube, or if you're watching on Telegram, that's what I want to know. Telegram, okay, so Cool Cat says Telegram, and it's not lagging for him. Ray says Telegram, and it is lagging for him. I noticed last night, because everybody's streaming now. It's like streaming is the world of it. And so we don't really watch TV, the wife and I. We might watch an hour a night at the most, and a lot of times we don't. And our child never watches TV. Our kids, now that we have more than one, the television is not available to them. So, but we do play a lot of music, and I stream a lot of music. And so I noticed that streaming was bad, and I got a report saying that, okay, like, basically the whole neighborhood was all streaming. I'm like, oh, well, Sunday Night Football. So it might be that something happened with streaming overnight. But again, hold on a sec. Okay, Greg Turner is saying he doesn't see Live Lab at the top. Okay, so Greg Turner is one of our members. He doesn't know how to see pinned messages. I'm going to have to help him out. So if you're one of our members, we have our past shows on pinned messages, and it's at the top. So if you're like one of our members, basically pinned messages is at the top of the screen. All right, so there you go. Helped him out. Good. All right, so he DM'd me with that question, and so I wanted to go ahead and let him know. So yeah, anyway, so that's it. It might be lagging. I don't know. If it continues to lag, I might either just end everything, or I might, end the show. My life is not, I'm not depressed. I am not depressed. But I will, I might shut this off and restart it. And just maybe restart my system. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But it seems as if, okay, so Ray says he's only on Telegram and it's lagging. I don't know what to tell you. Long story short, if it's lagging that bad, then what we'll do is you'll see it clean on the replay. So if it's lagging, just tune out. Try tuning back in. Try resetting your computer. Try doing whatever. Otherwise, it'll be on the replay and the pinned messages. All right. So Bitcoin again. Let's get to the charts. Look, you have a particular pattern in anything tradable, usually, right? But we've seen this pattern and not work recently. So on the 23rd of October, price made a spike. And then what it did was it tried to hit that top again. So it retraced, tried to hit the top again and was lower, and then moved back down. But then it moved back up. Okay. So at this point, we're seeing the same kind of thing. And so far, this is a top formation, right? But what we saw that was a little bit different this time was more of a blow-off situation. Price went up to almost 38,000, which is a psychological number, and it's actually an important number for a lot of reasons. And then it broke off hard. One single candle down to 35.6. That's a big move down. And then price did try to renegotiate that high and not make it, and then has continued down since then. So that is a top formation. That means that there is a probability the price is topped out, and you're only going to see so many of these crazy moves up before price gets tired of doing that, right? But each one of these crazy moves up had that top formation. So, what'll happen is price tops out, everybody gets exhausted, but then whoever's running things wants price to go up. Okay, that might just be regular traders running things. I'm not suggesting necessarily that it's like someone in the background saying we need price to go up, although it very well could be happening with algos. But I think a lot of it might just be like a lot of the ETF news coming out and people freaking out over that, even though it's like not finalized or anything like that. But people hear ETF and ETF and they think, Bitcoin's going to go to $1 million. And that's not something I would trade on. But you can see how quickly price, after all these, like from the 8th of November until say all the way to the 9th. So the 8th this is about 24 hours, a little under 24 hours. And then within 2-3 hours, price like really headed back down hard. That's pretty much a mini, like small version of a blow off top. It's a very, very hard move down, but price was held up right here, tried to like renegotiate that top. And again, you can see it on a more granular fashion here, in a more granular fashion as it is headed down. Now, it could continue down, but again, we saw that several times already on the way up, so it could happen again. So you're going to have your clue if price touches this high and even breaches that high again and stays above that for, even in a few hours, there's a decent chance it's going to go up. And chances are, if it is going to go up, price would breach that, and it would breach that, and it'll head up pretty hard, chances are. So that can happen. It's, things are a little different now. Not that this time is going to be different, but every market, every iteration of the Fourier cycle does have its own characteristics. Let's put it that way. So, is retail hungry enough? Is retail thirsty enough because of the ETF stuff? Like, could retail push it up? Because in the end, it can. It generally doesn't, but if retail bands together and gets that excited, it can. If all of a sudden your ETF is like, hey, BlackRock is approved and we're offering it next week, then chances are you might see a big move up, and who knows what's going to happen. But the 4-year thesis, which is something on which I'm still operating, says that price will actually head back down. And of course, Bitcoin will probably almost certainly take all the rest of the cryptos with it. And, I'm expecting a move back down. Whether it goes up a little bit more or not, I'm expecting a retracement to the low 20s. Right. I mean, it might stop around 24, 25. That's an area of support that's been kind of developed right here. But I would expect to move down to the low to mid 20s. But that's who knows. Like I said, we only have a few halvings. So to say that the prior halvings happened this way and they're going to happen this way again, that's also probably not a wise thing to say as gospel, because it's not a very large sample size. You're not back testing with large numbers, and back testing only really works with large numbers. When you are doing a scientific experiment and you want to look for correlation, you want to do many, 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 many experiments, right? The more experiments, the better. The more data, the better. And we just don't have a lot of data. There have been 3, 4 halvings. It's a very small sample size. So, we're just going to have to see what happens. But again, it doesn't matter to me per se. The 4-year cycle has held. So whether or not it goes back down, the halving is coming up probably in May, because no one really knows the exact hour of the halving, but it's all based on how many blocks come out and all that kind of thing. But it should be around May, and then I think maybe a month or two after May we'll see the real move up begin. Probably a ramp up to May if price heads back down. If it doesn't, then I don't know. It's kind of new territory. So that's the way that Bitcoin looks right now. Fortunately, I have charts and algorithms to tell me if price is going to at least short-term head up or down, and I can take advantage of that. Otherwise, with crypto, I just hold it, and I've had some of the same crypto for years and years that I just have not sold. And that has put me ahead in a big way. Valentine says Valentine, you don't know what the halving is in crypto? That's a long conversation. So basically the rewards that come from mining crypto are cut in half. So the way that Bitcoin is created is that if you are a miner, every time a certain amount of Bitcoin is created, you get a piece of Bitcoin in return. And that is how new Bitcoin comes into the market. Every 4 years, the amount of new Bitcoin that comes into the market, that is called the reward. And those rewards are cut in half every 4 years. And the reason that price continues to head up besides the value proposition of Bitcoin, the reason the price continues to head up is the actual scarcity of Bitcoin, because as the supply of Bitcoin goes down, as less Bitcoin is going into the market, that means less Bitcoin is going to be available, and there will never be any more than 21 million Bitcoin. So with scarcity comes higher price. So you can look it up, Valentine. It's called the halvening or the halving. I don't know. People call it different names. But that's just how it works. So, all right, we are at the end. And like I said, the gorilla may or may not come today. He should be back by tomorrow for sure. And I think he'll be on for his Rogue show today. I'm not sure about that. When I get more information, I'll let you all know. But in the meantime, I'm going to hop off here. Thank you all for coming. Here's the QR code. Again, we teach people how to build trading algorithms, and if you want, we can even help put you on the path to developing a way to have those trade for you, so you can actually more or less walk away. I mean, you can't completely walk away, but you can let it trade for you and profit for you while you're doing other things in the daytime. So that is what some people are really aiming at. Other people just want to develop an algorithm they can manually trade like everybody else, and that also is great and can be done whether you have a full-time job or no job at all. So we hope to see more of you in here. algofactory.tech, zap that QR code. In the meantime, we're going to hop off here, go over to the private stream. All right. Thank you all for coming.